So we're going to take these off of devices of adults, but it's fine if they're spying on our kids.
I don't always make great decisions under pressure.
Welcome back to Come and Take It. So last week, the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, announced that he is suing TikTok, of course, the social media app TikTok, for violating Texas law. So you might be asking, how? How are they violating Texas law? Why did he sue? Well, there's a new law that just became effective. It's called the SCOPE Act. It is the Securing Children Online Through Parental Empowerment. You see why they call it SCOPE.
Doesn't sound so bad.
It's a mouthful. Securing Children Online Through Parental Empowerment. The SCOPE Act just took effect September 1st, and it requires digital service providers, such as companies that own websites, apps, and software, to protect minor children under 18 from harmful content and data collection practices. So this law applies to digital services that provide an online platform that allow users to create either a public or a semi-public profile to use the service, or allow users to create or post content that can be viewed by other users of the service. So it includes message boards, it includes chat rooms, video channels, or of course, such as, TikTok's case, a main feed that presents users' content created and posted by other users.
That's actually pretty good.
So within this law, which I think is I'm happy with the law. I think it's a great law. I have some grievances to air with this particular topic. It's not with Attorney General Ken Paxton, and it is not with the law, because the law actually puts the onus on the digital media, outlets. And it says you have specific duties. If you want to do business in the state of Texas, you have specific duties. Some of those duties are the duty to register the age of the user. You got to do that. Oh, by the way, bye-bye Pornhub. Sorry, not sorry.
Some good news for once, huh?
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, okay? So the duty to register the age of the user, the duty to limit the collection of information on minors, and you are not allowed to, if you are one of these companies, you cannot sell or share minors' personally identifiable information, things of that nature. The duty to prevent the minor's exposure to harm, and content that promotes, I'm trying to make this as YouTube friendly as possible, content that promotes like offing oneself, bullying, trafficking, harassment, just a whole plethora of just really gross things. So they have a duty to prevent a person under 18 from being exposed to that, okay? And then the duty to create and give access to parental tools that allow a parent or guardian to supervise the minor's use of the service. And Attorney General Ken Paxton's office said, y'all aren't fulfilling your end of the deal. We're going to sue you. And by the way, a violation of this is enforced under the Deceptive Trade Practice, Act, and the Consumer Protection Division of the Office of the Attorney General is the one that enforces this. And so they can receive civil penalties of up to $10,000 per violation.
$10,000. It's chump change.
That would add up to a lot of money. I think that TikTok has now I don't know how many users they have in the state of Texas, but in the country, I think they have 150 million users. That's a lot of people.
Math.
I mean, even if you divided that down and said, well, probably only this many Texans are using TikTok, that's a lot of people, $10,000 per violation. So if you're paying attention, you know the massive harm that TikTok and other social media sites are causing to not just Texas children, but just the entire country. And I say children, and that's true. But these apps are preying on vulnerable people, some of whom are not children, some of whom are grown, and yet still have mental issues, health issues that make them more prone to just being vulnerable to this type of content. And so it's causing harm to our entire country, but let's just focus on the children, all right? Because that's obviously my lane. I care a lot. I do a lot of work keeping Texas kids safe. And I want to commend Ken Paxton's office. I want to commend Attorney General Ken Paxton for using his office to push back on TikTok. And I would also ask legislators to follow suit. Let's hit TikTok where it hurts every single time, because I'm just wondering, why are we allowing this platform at all to be utilized in the state of Texas? Maybe that's controversial. I know that there are a lot of people who are like, well, but the First Amendment, but, well, no. Here's the thing. This is so different than any sort of First Amendment issue. This is a company that is run by China. All right. TikTok is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance. This is a company that employs Chinese Communist Party members and has a subsidiary partially owned by the CCP, by the Chinese Communist Party. So TikTok is very heavily embedded, ByteDance is very heavily embedded with the Chinese Communist Party. Well, track that, okay, follow that with the fact that China is not our friend. China's very much our enemy. The CCP is very much our enemy. We knew that the CCP was our enemy. We knew that enough to ban the app. We banned TikTok from state-issued devices and networks in 2022? The state of Texas already banned TikTok from being used on state devices. Why? Because China is our enemy, and having our information given to China, funneled to China in any way, shape, or form is dangerous. It's like the state of Texas already understood that when they banned the app from these devices. So after we've all decided China is a threat to be taken seriously, we're also simultaneously like, so we're going to take these off of devices of adults, but it's fine if they're spying on our kids.
I don't always make great decisions under pressure.
Make that make sense. It doesn't to me. So there are ultimately two issues at play here. Okay. Well, I would say three. Number one is, what is the state of Texas doing to protect children from outside foreign influences like TikTok? Another issue, our country is just allowing the CCP this access to American children. And, you might think like it's just, it's just a social media app. They're just trying to, gain users. They're just trying to promote their company. They mean no harm. Well, here's the thing. Do you think that the children in China, where this company is owned, do you think that those children have access to TikTok? Absolutely not. They don't get TikTok in China. They give it to your children here in America. They don't give it to their children in China. They get a different version. It's called Douyin, and it is subject to heavy censorship from the CCP. Because in China, they've decided our children are our future. And we're not going to poison the minds of our children with this junk, with this garbage that's going on our app. We actually are building machines in China. This is what they're doing. I mean, there's just no argument. They are limiting the screen time for children in China. They are, they have these exercise regimens. And by the way, I'm not advocating for some sort of authoritarian rule that the government has on our children. I'm simply saying they are playing the long game. They do understand that the future of this country or their country, any country, the future of any country is dependent on the youth. So are you going to build your children into machines? Are you going to build them into strong members of society, contributing members of society?
I was sold to China for slave labor.
Because it seems like here in America, while China is building little machines, our children are, sorry to say it, but oftentimes fat and lazy and entitled and confused about basic biology. A large part of that is because of apps like TikTok. You see the connection? The CCP wants our kids stupid and confused and anxious and depressed and all these things that studies show that apps like TikTok create and promote in children. They know that these apps, these social media apps, exacerbate all of these mental health issues that our children are already having. So what do? They push that chaos app onto their enemy, which is us. They make sure that American children are harmed every single day that they are on that stupid garbage app. And I could go on for a long time about that, but I'll stop there, okay? Because there is another issue at play. It's an issue that the CCP is pushing this into our country, into our culture to create a cultural rot that they don't have because they know that this stuff is bad for a country, okay? But the other issue at play, I know we talk a lot about parental rights in this state and this country, but my opinion, okay, I would love to hear yours if yours differs from mine, and that's okay. My opinion is allowing your young, impressionable children or child to have TikTok on a device, whether it be a phone or an iPad, whatever the case may be, allowing your young child to have that accessible to them is akin to abuse. My opinion, okay? Parents have just decided to farm out their parenting to a screen. And unfortunately, that screen is a gateway to all sorts of horrible, terrible, depraved things. Again, that's why the CCP is doing it. They know that. And I think parents here in this state and this country do too. They just don't care. They can't be bothered. They're like, here, take the phone and leave me alone. Here's an iPad. Don't bother me. It's really sad. Like, why have kids? I talk to my husband about this all the time. It drives me nuts. Why have kids if you aren't willing to protect them, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient? And this, honestly, this goes, for me personally, this goes so much further than TikTok, because for me, it's just about like the device itself. I mean, we go to dinner and we see a family of, let's say, 4, 5, however many children. They're out, and every single one of those children has a screen up to their faces, and everyone is eating dinner without talking to each other. I mean, the screens in this country are a problem. And I think that if you really looked at the issues plaguing this country and the state, honestly, a lot of it could be traced back to we're not connected as families anymore. Parents aren't listening to children. They're not parenting their children. They're farming their parenting out to a device. And as that child gets older, they have access to more and more dangerous content on that device that, by the way, content that is encouraging divisiveness in families. Because remember, what do communists want? It is the Chinese Communist Party. What do communists believe about children?
They're slaves.
They don't like the family unit. They despise the nuclear family. They want to blow up the nuclear family because they don't think that your children should belong to you. They think the children belongs to the community. The children belong to the state. That's why they advocate for the state to teach your child public schools. That's why they advocate for all of these things that are going to disrupt the nuclear family relationship. And so parents in this country are just walking right into it, handing over a screen that is going to eventually be used against them. It's just really sad to me. And so if you're not willing to protect your children, even when it's inconvenient, even when it takes time, even when it is, you're exhausted. I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, I'm exhausted. My younger son is 4, and sometimes his stories take about 1 billion hours to tell me. And it would be so easy for me to just be like, Here, son, take this and please be quiet. But I love my kids too much, and I'm not going to do that to them. So it's sad that our attorney general even has to go through the trouble of doing this. It's sad that there are, unfortunately, a lot of parents in the state that can't take basic steps to protect their own children, to watch after their own children, to preserve their own children's innocence. It's really wild to me that that's the case. But I'm glad that he's doing it. I'm glad that his office is doing it. You know, before I go, my son, my older son who just turned 12, not the 4-year-old, my older son who just turned 12 is begging me for a phone. Like just pestering the heck out of me for a phone. And I've gotten very comfortable with the word no. I encourage all parents to get very comfortable with the word no. It is the best answer you can learn to give your child. And I would encourage you to try it out as often as possible. No, you're not getting a phone. No, you're not getting an iPhone. It's not safe for you. You can download all sorts, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, all sorts of, I'm sure there's other secret apps that I don't know about that children are behaving all sorts of, depraved ways on these apps without their parents knowing. So I'm so grateful to our AG for fighting back and doing such good to protect Texas children. I'm so grateful for him. I'm so sick of him having to pick up the slack for parents who are just providing access to this to their kids, either not knowing or not caring about the dangers that it poses. And maybe you guys tell me in the comments, please. Okay, if you're listening to this on audio podcast, make sure to go over and subscribe, rate, and review. And make sure to tell me.
For years, the Chinese Communist government has been buying up land all over the United States. What's worse, the land they're buying is within a disturbingly short distance from our military bases. In this coming season of Exposed, we dive into why our power grid continues to fail, who and what is behind those failures, and how the monster of the Chinese Communist government is behind it. Exposed, Lights Out, a new series by Texas Scorecard. Out now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Am I being too harsh when I say, and if you're watching on YouTube, tell me in the comments, am I being too harsh to say TikTok is a national security risk? TikTok is a statewide security risk. It's like controlled by our enemies. And if we're willing to admit that it is a security risk for our statewide officials, aren't our children more like, shouldn't we prioritize our children as well? I mean, I understand they could be like talking about state issues, and that's what the issue is with our government officials. But it's like, right, but if we can agree with the basic fact that the CCP is trying to spy on us through TikTok, I understand that, a random 14-year-old girl isn't spilling state secrets on her email or her TikTok or whatever, but like, we've still already established that this really, really bad communist entity is trying to spy on our country.
Indeed, we have.
Like, shouldn't we be protecting our kids from that? So tell me, let me know. Is it just me? Please tell me. Maybe I'm the old fuddy-duddy.
Fuddy-duddy attitudes of lower middle classes.
I'm too old-fashioned. That's what I get told by the left a lot. Oh, you're too old-fashioned. Like,
Old-fashioned?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe in traditional values in this country. I still believe in, respecting your elders and not exposing children to porn and, not teaching them in kindergarten about people's, sexual preferences and kinks. Like, yeah, if that's old fashioned, you got me.
Guilty as charged.
busted, guilty as charged. You're right. I do want to protect children. You can call me whatever you want. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to fight to protect kids. So thank you to the Attorney General's office for always working so hard on behalf of Texas children. And we're going to keep a lookout what's going on here in the state of Texas within the next week. And we will bring you the latest next week here on Come and Take It.